live from New Delhi. You're watching DDI India Global. We'll get you top stories from India and the region. I'm Tanvi Thaneja, and for news from the rest of the world, I'm joined by my colleague from Washington DC, Benji Haya. Good to have you with us, Benji.
Good morning, Tanvi. 10 a.m. here in Washington, D.C., 3 in the afternoon across Central Europe. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, the United States, Russia, Ukraine, North Korea, how President Vladimir Putin's travels have caused geopolitical stirs across the Eurasian continent. And the pressure piles on UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak just weeks out from polling day. All that after the headlines first. Back to you.
Bangladesh's Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina meets India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar in New Delhi, her two-day state visit to bolster Indo-Bangla ties. The United States backs direct India-Pakistan talks following Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's congratulatory message to Prime Minister Narendra Modi on his re-election. China threatens death penalty in extreme cases for die-hard Taiwan independence activists, calling them separatists. Taiwan says it deeply regrets China's guidelines. And yoga enthusiasts across India and the world stretch and bend to mark the 10th International Day of Yoga. Prime Minister Narendra Modi calls yoga an agent of global good at the celebrations in India's Srinagar. So let's start DD India Global today with the celebration of an ancient Indian practice, one that unites the body, mind and soul, yoga. It unites the world as well. Whether practiced individually or in a group setting, yoga offers a sanctuary for personal growth and spiritual renewal, making it a valuable tool for improving overall well-being in our modern, hectic lives. The President of India, the Prime Minister of India and various ministers from the Indian Cabinet marked the International Day of Yoga today. Take a look.
The International Day of Yoga is observed every year on different themes. This year, the theme for its 10th edition is Yoga for Self and Society. People all around the world celebrated International Day of Yoga on Friday. Yoga encompasses a diverse range of techniques and philosophies aimed at achieving harmony within oneself and with the surrounding world. President of India Draupadi Murmu performed yoga to mark the special day at India's Rashtrapati Bhavan. Joined by other participants in a series of yoga postures and breathing exercises, President Murmu underscored importance of yoga as part of India's cultural heritage and its relevance in contemporary life. Meanwhile, more than 4,000 people from all walks of life performed yoga along with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi as he led the nation on the International Day of Yoga on Friday. Prime Minister Modi was in Srinagar to mark this special day. He performed yoga on the banks of Dal Lake and addressed the yoga enthusiasts present there and said that
योग केवल एक विद्या नहीं है, बल्कि एक विज्ञान भी है। आज सूचना क्रांति के इस दौर में हर ओर सूचना संसाधनों की बाढ़ है। ऐसे में मानव मस्तिष्क के लिए एक विषय पर फोकस कर पाना एक बड़ी चुनौती साबित हो रहा है। इसका भी निदान हमें योग से मिलता है। हम जानते हैं एकाग्रता मानव मन की सबसे बड़ी ताकत है। योग ध्यान के जरिए हमारा ये सामर्थ्य भी निखरता है।
Prime Minister Modi greeted the participants at the Sher-e-Kashmir International Conference Centre in Srinagar in India's Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. He also clicked selfies with the yoga enthusiasts present at the occasion. Leaders and prominent personalities from all across the nation united to celebrate the age-old discipline of yoga on the 10th International Yoga Day India's Information and Broadcasting Minister Ashwini Vaishnav participated in a yoga session in New Delhi. Union Home Minister Amit Shah performed yoga in the Western Indian state of Gujarat's Ahmedabad. Various ministers observed the International Day of Yoga, including External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, Union Ministers Suresh Gopi in Kerala's Kovalam, Raja Mohan Naidu, Giriraj Singh, along with former Speaker of India's lower house Om Birla, practiced yoga during the International Day of Yoga celebrations. Yoga is not merely a physical exercise but a holistic practice that integrates the body, mind and the soul. Officials at the helm of affairs, along with people across the globe, observed the International Day of Yoga to emphasize the importance of this ancient practice. With inputs from Jessica Taneja from Jammu and Kashmir, Antara Sinha for DD India.
Well, it's said that yoga is the dance of every cell within your body. We will get you more updates on the celebrations of International Day of Yoga from all over the world later in the bulletin. For now, some more international updates. Bangladesh's Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina arrived for a two-day state visit to India on Friday at the invitation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Bangladesh's Prime Minister will hold bilateral consultations with her Indian counterpart. During the visit, Hasina will also call on the President of India, Draupadi Murmu, and Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar. The Bangladeshi Prime Minister was among the international leaders who attended the swearing-in ceremony of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Union Council of Ministers on the 9th of June. And India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar called on Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina of Bangladesh on Friday. Dr. S. Jaishankar took to social media platform X, where he said Prime Minister Hasina's visit to India underlines the close and abiding ties of the two countries. He also appreciated her guidance on further development of the special partnership between the two countries. Speaking on the US congressional delegation meeting with Dalai Lama at his residence in India's Dharamshala, the Indian Foreign Ministry spokesperson said that Dalai Lama is accorded due courtesies and freedom to conduct his religious and spiritual activities. The meeting sparked anger from China, which views the exiled spiritual leader of Tibetan Buddhism as a separatist.
The government of India's position on His Holiness the Dalai Lama has been very clear and consistent. He is a revered religious leader and is deeply respected by the people of India. His Holiness is accorded due courtesies and freedom to conduct his religious and spiritual activities.
Now, the United States has said that it supports direct discussions between India and Pakistan, but the pace, scope and character of talks should be determined by the two neighboring countries. US State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said that the US values its important relationships with both India and Pakistan. Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif had congratulated Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi for securing a third term in the recently concluded parliamentary elections.
We value our important relationships with both India and Pakistan. As we have said, we support direct discussions between India and Pakistan, but the pace, scope, and character should be determined by those two countries, not by us.
On to the Russia-Ukraine conflict now. Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Friday that he is open to security talks with the United States, but Ukraine must be on the agenda. My colleague Benji Haya is in Washington, D.C. He takes it forward from me here, gives us more on this and other stories making headlines around the world. Benji, another signal here by Russia to talk?
Yes, good morning, Tanvi. The Kremlin claiming that Russia is open to security talks with the United States, but there are conditions. There must be a comprehensive set of talks, and they must include the subject of Ukraine, which Russia invaded back in 2022. Speaking over nuclear risks, Moscow insisted it's impossible to rip out any individual segments from this general complex of problems. And President Vladimir Putin also reiterated that Russia will develop its nuclear arsenal to preserve the global balance of power. For more on this, we're joined by Dasha Chernyshova live from Moscow. Dasha, thank you for joining us this morning. What would these talks actually consist of, and also what is the chance of them happening?
Well, indeed, Moscow says that such talks are in demand and Moscow would be willing to engage into the negotiations with the United States because the problems are piling up. The Russian understanding is that these conversations should focus on Ukraine as part of a wider context in which there will be the new Eurasian security architecture that will provide for the indivisible security for everyone, so that there is no provision of security of one state at the expense of another. That has always been the Russian position, and Moscow once again invites the Western countries to engage in such negotiations, following, of course, the remarks by Russian president speaking about the possibility of amendments made to the Russian nuclear doctrine. The Russian president has been saying that indeed these negotiations are needed, but he also has noted that the statements that are now coming from the Western countries are extremely hostile. They provide for the lowering of the threshold when nuclear weapons could be used, and that's why we understand that Russia will be engaged into the creation of the new security architecture in Eurasia that will be based on the organizations that are already functioning in the region, such as the Shanghai Security Cooperation organizations, for instance. And these negotiations would certainly, from the Russian perspective, involve the withdrawal of the foreign contingents of the powers that are not part of Eurasia.
Dasha Chonashova live from Moscow. Dasha, thank you. The White House says the possibility of Russia delivering weapons to North Korea is incredibly concerning. Russia's President Vladimir Putin suggested after his visit to the DPRK this week that weapons supplied to the isolated nuclear-armed country would be a response to the West arming Ukraine. Take a listen.
Secretary Blinken recently announced a comprehensive review of all bilateral cooperation between the United States and Georgia. As part of that review, the department implemented a new visa restriction policy to address these actions under Section 212A3C of the Immigration and Nationality Act. Today, under this policy, we are taking steps to impose visa restrictions on dozens of Georgian individuals. This includes individuals responsible for or complicit in, and immediate family members of those responsible for or complicit in, undermining democracy in Georgia.
Meanwhile, South Korea has summoned the Russian ambassador in protest over that pact that was signed between Russia and North Korea in Pyongyang earlier this week. South Korea's Foreign Minister Cho Tae-yol and US Secretary of State Antony Blinken have both condemned the treaty as a serious threat to regional peace and stability. The Russian ambassador has responded that threats and blackmail against Moscow, as it's perceived, over its increasingly close ties to North Korea are unacceptable, he says. Vladimir Putin warned that South Korea should not make what he calls a big mistake of supplying arms to Ukraine in the war against Russia. He added that Moscow would respond to such a move in a way that would be painful for Seoul. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak on the back foot again on Friday, forcing to state that colleagues from his own Conservative Party who are under investigation for allegedly betting on the date of the general election would face the full consequences of the law. Speaking during an election manifesto launch in Wales just weeks out from polling day, Mr Sunak admitted that multiple investigations are taking place.
Incredibly angry when I learned about these allegations, in the same anger that many of you will feel and everyone watching. And it's right that they are investigated thoroughly. These are serious allegations. Right that they're properly and thoroughly investigated, as they are being independently, including a criminal investigation, as you'll be aware, by the police. And what I would say is if anyone is found to have broken the rules, they should face the full consequences of the law.
A group of hackers responsible for stealing 400 gigabytes of British healthcare data claims to have published some of that stolen information online. The Russian-linked Keeling Group had demanded $50 million for the hospital pathology data, but no payment was made within their deadline. DD India correspondent Stuart Smith has more details on this story from London.
Killing cyber attacks earlier in the month are still causing disruption to England's National Health Service, with over 1,000 operations and over 2,000 appointments so far postponed. The Russian-linked group downloaded sensitive blood test data, which included patient information like names and dates of birth, before wiping it from the hospital system. They then blackmailed the hospitals for the data back in what's known as a ransomware attack. The private company that was hacked provides testing services to London hospitals. It says it's analysing the data published online on Friday to see what has been made public. As well as patient data, the hackers also published information on financial arrangements between healthcare providers. NHS England, which is responsible for running the country's hospitals, has apologised to patients and says staff are continuing to work hard to rearrange appointments and treatments. Stuart Smith in London, reporting for DD India.
Well, we were hearing earlier about yoga, and the Indian mission at the United Nations headquarters in New York has organised a yoga session on the north lawns of the headquarters on the occasion of International Day of Yoga. DD India's Jodie Jacobs was there.
In 2014, the United Nations declared the 21st of June as the International Day of Yoga, recognizing that yoga provides a holistic approach to one's health and well-being. International Day of Yoga was proposed by India and endorsed by 175 member states. The proposal was first introduced by Prime Minister Narendra Modi during an address to the General Assembly. The 21st of June is particularly significant as it's the longest day of the year and the summer solstice in the Northern Hemisphere. Last year, on these northern lawns here at the United Nations headquarters in New York, Prime Minister Modi joined hundreds of UN staff and diplomats in a yoga session. Since its inception, International Yoga Day has grown significantly. Globally, governments, yoga institutes and individuals plan large-scale yoga classes and cultural gatherings, and the day has developed into a worldwide platform for spreading awareness of yoga and of all its advantages for leading a balanced and healthy life. This year marks the 10th International Day of Yoga, and once again these lawns will be decked with yoga mats, as UN officials and diplomats will again participate in a yoga session. The event is organized by the Permanent Mission of India to the United Nations, with the theme this year being Yoga for Self and Society. Jodie Jacobs at the United Nations headquarters in New York, reporting for DD India.
Well, Tanvi, that's it from me here in Washington. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Benji. We look forward to the yoga celebrations from your part of the world. Well, here in Asia, yoga teachers in Japan are hoping they can help the practice break into the mainstream. They say yoga could help the busy working people of Tokyo recover from the stresses of city life. But less than 20% of the population regularly practices yoga. DD India's Chris Gilbert has the story from Tokyo.
It's early on a Tuesday in the heart of the world's biggest metropolis, and Tarun is teaching his students nourishment. He uses yoga to help busy working people win the morning. If they practice regularly, he says yoga can help them win their week, their month, and eventually their whole lives.
If you practice yoga, you will get everything what you need from this life, and you will be the best of your life. I'm not saying to compare to your neighbors or compare to anyone. You will be your best.
Tarun says yoga loves him and has practiced since before he can remember. He wants to share that love in Japan, often appearing on TV, to make it popular. But he says it's not yet broken through into the mainstream.
Yoga needs to get popular in Japan. The peak is not there yet. Not even 20% people are practicing yoga. So we at least need to go 30% of the Japanese population practicing regularly yoga.
There are historical reasons why yoga has struggled to take hold in Japan.
Many people here still remember the 1995 sarin gas attacks by the Aum Shinrikyo group, which practiced yoga, and teachers say that led the public to be cautious about the pursuit for many years afterwards until everything changed in the 2010s when yoga wear became fashionable.
That's when apparel brand Lululemon became popular and activewear hit the streets. Tom Wada teaches yoga in Omotesando, Tokyo's fashion hub. He says fashion has helped rehabilitate yoga's image, but it's come with a catch.
The way it's advertised here, if you see an advertisement for yoga studios, it's usually with beautiful female yoga teachers or models, and that's how people see yoga now. I have had people say that, oh, but yoga is for women, right? And so males don't practice.
He says the meditative aspect of yoga could help all Japanese people recover from long work days and stressful city life.
And meditation is giving back to yourself that time, that you are usually giving away to others, like you're giving importance to, let's say, Instagram or to the company or to whatever rules that Japan might oppose on you.
Tarun also says he wants his studio to liberate Japanese people from social expectations.
In Japan, most of the time to kids, they teach dame first, what not to do. I try to teach them what to do.
Hoping to spread his love for yoga and stretch the practice to a wider population. Chris Gilbert in Tokyo reporting for DD India.
So, being a practitioner of yoga myself, I could say very confidently that one is led into meditation through yoga. So that's the power of yoga. Moving on now, China on Friday threatened to impose the death penalty in extreme cases for die-hard Taiwan independent activists for splitting the country and inciting secession crimes in accordance with the law. Taiwan has complained of a pattern of ramped-up Chinese pressure since Lai won the election in January, including ongoing military actions. Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te vowed that Taiwanese people will not give in to Chinese coercion. Further, China said that European Union may trigger a trade war if it continues to escalate tensions. Last week, the European Commission proposed tariffs of up to 38.1% on electric vehicle imports from China despite Beijing's protest, plunging these trade ties to a new low. The Chinese side said that EU intimidated and coerced Chinese enterprises, threatened to apply punitive high tariff rates and demanded overly broad information. Beijing has also launched a dumping investigation into the EU pork imports. Back to India. The country denounced the Canadian Parliament's move of observing 2-minute silence on the death anniversary of Sikh separatist leader Hardeep Singh Nijjar. A statement from the Ministry of External Affairs of India said that giving political space to extremism is unacceptable.
Time again we have said that this is a matter of serious concern for us. Khalistani activities, we have been repeatedly calling upon the government of Canada to take action. We have said that political space that is provided to extremist anti-India elements and those advocating violence must stop and they must take action.
And next we take a look at what else is happening around the world. Tourists and locals in Rome are trying to keep cool as heat waves hit Italy. 8 cities in Italy were issued heat warnings, with temperatures of more than 39 degrees Celsius anticipated in some parts of the country. Thousands of people across southern China have been evacuated as torrential rains battered the region, causing flash flooding and mudslides. As of Friday, at least 9 people were reported dead in Guangdong province. An Oracle Sea Lioness has tipped Germany to beat Switzerland in their upcoming Euro 2024 third-round game this weekend. Hilla, the Sea Lioness, makes her projections by flipping balls into a net and dropping fish into buckets. Malaysia intends to reinforce the broader message of unity and prosperity in the ASEAN family through the country's participation in the World Expo 2025 in Osaka, Japan. And the 18th Mumbai International Film Festival ends today. This 7-day event started with the India premiere of Billy and Molly, an auteur love story directed by Charlie Hamilton James on the 15th of this month. This year's MIF showcased 314 films from 59 countries, and the films were in 61 languages. These included 8 world premieres and 21 India premieres. Mumbai International Film Festival, or MIF, provides a platform for documentary filmmakers from all over the world to explore the possibilities of co-productions of documentary, short films and animation films. And every year on June 21st, the world also celebrates music through World Music Day. On this day, streets, parks, plazas and other public areas transform into lively stages. Musicians of all genres and backgrounds come together to share their love for music, performing for enthusiastic crowds. Indian music encompasses numerous genres in multiple varieties and forms. These include classical music, folk music, rock and pop. World Music Day showcases a diverse array of musical expressions. So as people world over celebrated music and yoga, they bent and stretched to celebrate the 10th International Day of Yoga. Events and activities are continuing worldwide to honor this ancient Indian practice and its immense benefits physically, mentally and spiritually. But the event becomes all the more inspirational when you see practitioners practicing yoga deep underwater or at the mountain peaks. Well, that's not all. Pets can also be trained to do yoga. Take a look at these visuals. Interesting, isn't it? Yoga. That's it in this edition of DD India Global. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And also you can download our DD India mobile app for all the news and updates on the go. So we will be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from my entire team here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar. We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts, we demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, DC.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.